Thank you so much for joining us for CBN News Watch. I'm Ephraim Graham. Ahead today, Israel looking to wrap up its battle against Hamas as it shifts its focus to a possible all-out war with Hezbollah in Lebanon, while the Biden administration is urging diplomacy instead. Several thousand Israeli soldiers have been wounded since the beginning of the war in Gaza, and recently, an international Christian speaker paid them a visit to encourage them in the middle of their sacrifice. We'll bring you a look. Should social media have a warning label just like cigarettes? We're going to hear why the U.S. Surgeon General says yes, and why are voters interested in the independent candidacy of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. over Donald Trump and Joe Biden. All those stories and more ahead today, right here on CBN News Watch.
This is CBN News Watch.
We're going to begin this half hour in Israel, where the focus of war may be shifting as Israel says it has destroyed half of Hamas's fighting forces in Gaza. Now Israel is looking at the battle with Hezbollah as the terrorist group has been launching major rocket attacks into the northern region of the Jewish state. But the Biden administration is urging Israel not to strike back so hard it leads to an all-out war. CBN Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl brings us the story. She's reporting from Jerusalem.
In meetings with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, a senior aide to President Biden called for Israel to trust diplomacy and refrain from all-out war. With Israelis living in the north enduring daily shellings and some 100,000 having evacuated their homes, one Israeli reserve major told CBN News that trusting diplomacy is not realistic.
So how diplomacy can work when you are talking about a regime that is exporting ideology, that is calling for submission of their values for their Islamic Sharia laws values in our region, and Israel is actually for them the Jewish democratic state of Israel.
Israeli Reserve Major Shadi Khalul is an Aramean Christian from the Galilee. He says time is of the essence.
Actually, the earlier we do it, the more chances we have to win this war. If we delay this conflict, they will be ready and get ready to destroy Israel and then move on to other countries in Europe.
Earlier in the war, Israel faced U.S. and international opposition to invading Rafah and defeating the remaining Hamas battalions. Now Israeli forces say they've destroyed 2 of the 4 battalions and degraded the other 2. They've also discovered hundreds of rockets intended for Israeli civilians. Israeli media is reporting a new document that shows military and intelligence officials knew weeks in advance of Hamas's plan to invade Israel and kidnap as many as 250 Israelis. While officials believe defenses were strong enough to prevent an invasion, Hamas succeeded in killing 1,200 civilians and taking about 250 hostages on October 7th. Some of the hostages have died in captivity, and those who've been released and rescued testified to psychological, physical, and sexual abuse. Vice President Kamala Harris highlighted that these crimes are likely still happening to hostages held in Gaza.
And I just met with Amit, a survivor who has bravely come forward with her account of sexual violence while she was held captive by Hamas. These testimonies, I fear, will only increase as more hostages are released.
Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Several thousand Israeli soldiers have been wounded since the October 7th Hamas attacks, and many with life-changing injuries. Recently, a special guest encouraged them to not let those wounds ruin their lives. Here again is CBN Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl.
When we look different, we are the ones that everyone looks at. And so the fact that we still exist, the fact that we sometimes smile, the fact that we keep on going out there are many people who say, wow, if he didn't give up, then I'm not going to give up.
Here at Sheba Medical Center, they've treated many of the soldiers wounded in the war since October 7th. Some have even lost limbs. Today, they had a very special visitor.
Today it was amazing to be with the wounded soldiers here. You know, my mom was a nurse, and so I have compassion for the doctors and nurses here as well, ministering to the needs of those here and families affected. I think for such a time as this, it's very important for us to show up and show the support and love and plant seeds of light and faith into everyone here.
International speaker Nick Vujicic told CBN News he felt humbled and inspired after speaking to the wounded soldiers.
I had several conversations with a couple people privately and then also in a small group setting, and it was a time that I think was very encouraging for them deeply, and it's wonderful to see hope in their eyes as well.
It's giving me a perspective to see that, okay, everything is okay. I just lost one limb, but if Nick got a career and an amazing family, there's no any reason that I won't get it too.
After serving 91 days fighting inside the Gaza Strip, 23-year-old Omri Rosenblatt was severely wounded while trying to dismantle bombs, and an explosion brought a house down on him.
Actually, all the house got collapsed in house, like you see, like the movies of the earthquakes in Nepal. This is how it looked.
Although mostly buried under the rubble, Omri managed to signal rescuers. They pulled him out and rushed him to hospital.
The doctor and the team commander and all of my guys was 100% sure, all of them, that I'm not gonna make it.
Although Omri survived, he had severe burns. Doctors amputated his left leg and had to piece together his right leg. Listening to Nick gave him hope.
It gives a lot of motivation because Nick is a great talker and give a lot of examples from his life. And as an amputee guy, I can feel it closer to me. It's amazing.
Simcha Greeneman is deputy commander of Zaka International, the volunteer search and rescue service heavily involved in treating the wounded and helping recover the dead since October 7th. Greeneman met Nick in the U.S. and helped arrange this special meeting.
We spoke about the whole situation, and we said that we would like to come see the soldiers so he could really give them some courage and strength to continue doing whatever they're doing and to give them a lively spiritual way to live and to continue their life.
Greeneman admired the soldiers' response to Nick's encouragement.
It was beautiful, what they said, and right away how much courage and how much feeling close to him, that he was born that way. But their life changed in the middle of their life by understanding that life never finishes, that life does not end by this. As you can see, beautiful family that he has, wife and kids, and life is beautiful.
Nick wants Israelis to know they are not alone, and America is not their savior.
And even though it feels lonely to be Israel right now, I, as a U.S. citizen, am very horrified of generally the West and what we're allowing people to say without really understanding what's going on. We're talking about evil, we're talking about terrorism, we're talking about people that their only mission in life basically is to kill the Jews and the Christians. And I think this is a very important time for the Christians and the Jewish people to come together, to align, to pray.
While Omri doesn't know what's next for him, he says maybe he'll follow Nick's example. He also urges those who hate Israel to think about what they are saying and doing.
A little bit about the truth, not only what there is in social media, because all the social media and the media is influenced by money and those things and by terror and blood money. Please come to Israel. Please come speak with me. I think I'm a really nice guy.
Greeneman says it's encouraging to see people stand with Israel at this time.
Just the hug to know that so many people are behind us as Am Yisrael, getting the support of being there, hugging us. That's something that we can continue doing whatever we're doing with a strong mind and understanding that nothing can stop us, as it says, never again.
Julie Stahl, CBN News, Sheba Medical Center, Ramat Gan, Israel.
Coming up, the Surgeon General calling for warning labels on social media to protect children. And why are some voters interested in supporting Robert F. Kennedy Jr. over Donald Trump or Joe Biden? We're going to show you those stories when we come back. Stay with us.
Get your daily quick start from CBN News. A quick read on the important news of the day delivered right to your inbox. Stay current on breaking news, politics, and entertainment. Go to quickstart.news and subscribe today.
From violent sexual content to bullying and harassment, the U.S. Surgeon General is calling for warning labels to protect children on social media. His action comes amid growing research saying social media is hurting the mental health of young people. CBN's Brody Carter is on the story.
Everyone knows someone who's been harmed by social media. Everyone knows a girl who is cutting herself out of anxiety. So this is very different from any previous moral panic.
Social psychologist and best-selling author Jonathan Haidt links the rise in mental health issues to the widespread use of smartphones and handheld devices. And the science would seem to back that up. Several studies show adolescents spending more than 3 hours a day on social media report high levels of anxiety and depression. Increase that to 5 or more hours, and a suicidal risk factor comes into play. Teenagers already spend an average of 4 to 6 hours online each day. These numbers are driving U.S. Surgeon General Dr. Vivek Murthy to call for drastic action.
Now, a warning label would help parents to understand these risks.
His idea of tobacco-style warning labels would require congressional action.
Keep in mind, when Congress authorized these labels for tobacco more than half a century ago, or nearly half a century ago, the smoking rate in America was above 40%. Today, it's under 12%. That's an extraordinary amount of progress. Labels were a part of that effort.
Dr. Murthy also wants Congress to protect children from harmful online content and companies collecting sensitive data. A groundbreaking Florida law could pave the way for other states seeking to do that.
We know from law enforcement, we know from our prosecutors that social media is the primary platform in which children are trafficked.
Florida House Speaker Paul Renner played a crucial role in updating a law that would prevent kids under 14 from using social media and prohibit minors from accessing pornography.
Because truly, these platforms are using addiction, not just for kids, but for adults, to keep us online, keep those eyeballs online as long as possible. So we do see other states looking at what we've done. We see the national conversation.
On a larger perspective, Dr. Haidt argues social media has altered social interaction to such a degree among children that historic social norms have been disrupted.
We used to have a play-based childhood for the last, 50 million years. That's what mammals do. They play. Young mammals must play a lot. If you've ever had a puppy, you know that. But we took our children in the 90s and said, no more of that, no more outside play. You have to be supervised all the time. So the loss of the play-based childhood set them up for a kind of a weakness and fragility.
Social media stocks took a dip yesterday after the Surgeon General's call to action. Now Americans are waiting to see how tech giants like Meta, X, and TikTok respond. Brody Carter, CBN News.
I want to turn now to the presidential race. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has emerged as a potential spoiler in the 2024 presidential election. His appeal to independent voters threatens to pull votes from both Joe Biden and Donald Trump. Herd looks at why some voters are backing him as an alternative to the two major candidates.
It might seem strange to call a member of the Kennedy family a political outsider, and yet Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s outsider label is fueling his quest for the White House.
I know that when I get into the White House, I can give you back your country.
In an age when trust in government is seen as hitting a record low, Kennedy is attracting both Republicans and Democrats. We met some of those supporters at an RFK meetup in Virginia Beach and heard the words honesty and integrity often.
I like that he's honest, he's a good man.
I actually believe what he says.
He's an honest candidate, he's very truthful.
A lot of Kennedy's supporters feel like he's a truth teller who's willing to say things that other politicians won't say. They are disaffected. They feel alienated from the government. They feel like the major institutions in this country are not responsive to the people, the media, corporations, the government. And they feel like Kennedy gives voice to that perspective.
Kennedy's role as an outsider makes him a long shot, but that's also part of his appeal. And he's polling stronger than any third-party candidate in decades. Kennedy has been polling at a very respectable 10 to 13%, yet it's not clear whether Kennedy would pull more votes away from Biden or Trump.
He appeals to some folks on the right, some folks on the left. I spoke to somebody who said, I've met folks from the MAGA movement who like him. I've met folks from the Bernie movement who like him.
Polling by Ipsos shows that RFK supporters who have voted Republican in the past are more likely to be attracted to his stand against illegal immigration and foreign military involvement.
What I like about Kennedy,
He's against all the foreign wars that we're going to get involved in. Also on border policies.
Democrat supporters are more likely to view his work as an environmental lawyer and his stance on abortion as top issues.
Like what he says about abortion, like what he says about keeping the earth clean, keeping our food clean.
Kennedy's position on abortion remains unclear. He said on a podcast he would support full-term abortions, but his campaign says he only supports abortion until fetal viability, about 24 weeks. The Kennedy campaign website calls for fewer abortions through adoption and a massive subsidized daycare initiative. Others are attracted to Kennedy's stance against vaccines. While he maintains he's not anti-vaccine, he's also said vaccines are not safe and effective. Kennedy's supporters also see him as someone who could unify a very divided nation.
He wants to heal the divide, which I really appreciate.
I truly believe that he can unite America. There's a third faction who he's hoping to appeal to, I think, which doesn't get as much attention, but that's voters who are totally disengaged from the process. I mean, they might not even be considered voters until perhaps this election.
If I can persuade the American public to vote out of hope, to vote out of a faith in their future, to vote after a vision for this country that they can be proud of, that they can believe in. If I can convince them of that, the American people, then I win the election easily.
While some believe Kennedy chose his running mate, wealthy Silicon Valley lawyer and philanthropist Nicole Shanahan, for her checkbook, that hasn't seemed to dampen his support significantly. And as things stand now, another Kennedy is set to make an impact and possibly influence the outcome of a presidential election. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Still ahead, a woman is relying on God as she deals with a rare disease that causes some 100 tumors in her body. We're going to hear from her right after this. One woman is relying on God's strength to help her deal with 100 tumors inside her body. The tumors are mostly non-cancerous, but they do cause a great deal of pain and often need to be surgically removed. She shares what it's like living with her rare disease on this week's episode of Healthy Living. Take a look.
I have schwannomatosis, which unfortunately is the most painful, but when there is an issue or a lot of pain is being caused or it's pressing on something that we feel like we need to get it out, then we schedule surgery.
So that's where the pain comes from. The tumor grows and presses on something, and there are nerves everywhere. To look at you, you look like the picture of health. You're very beautiful. You look very healthy, but you're in constant pain. How do you deal with that?
There are some days that are difficult. I try to stay healthy. To me, that's the most important thing to do, is to eat healthy, to stay healthy, to continue to build your muscles, build your stamina. And I honestly believe that that is what helps me get through surgery. A body in motion stays in motion. So when we start having issues and I have to get a tumor out, I just try to stay healthy beforehand and then continue to stay healthy afterwards.
So when you are feeling a lot of pain, you actually exercise and eat right. That must be very difficult to do because that's probably the last thing you feel like doing.
It is. I'm a runner. It seems to loosen up my body a little bit to be able to help those tumors. I think my condition is a little different than some other people that have NF. I think we all just show different signs, but I have just always been active. I've always played sports, and I just continue to do that. I want the younger generation to know not to stop.
How many people have NF? You said there are 3 different types, and one typically strikes children, but overall, how many people have NF? A lot of us have never heard of it before.
And when I was diagnosed, and I remember sitting in my neurosurgeon's office, And he said to me, "You have neurofibromatosis." And I looked at him like he had 3 heads. I'd never heard of it. I think it's like 1 in 20,000 that have neurofibromatosis. The schwannomatosis is the rarest kind. I can remember when I had my genetic testing, and 2 years later, the doctor called and said, "You have a very rare form of schwannomatosis." But again, I still think they all intertwine with one another. Mine are all internal, whereas NF1, the majority of those tumors are on the outside. But again, I've had friends, unfortunately, who have had NF1 who have passed away because of brain tumors. And so that's very important for me to be able to raise awareness for NF, not for me, but for the younger generation.
And you can hear more about NF, including how you can help raise awareness and help provide for the needs of those suffering from it on this week's edition of Healthy Living. It comes up today on the CBN News Channel beginning at 2:30 Eastern and then again at 6:30. You can also see it on the CBN News app or watch it on YouTube. We'll be right back with an encouraging word for your day ahead. Stay with us.
Download the CBN News app. One place for all of your news. Breaking news alerts. Watch CBN News Channel live. CBN News, because truth matters. Get the CBN News app today.
Time now for your Tuesday Tweetable. I hope you will post, tag, tweet, and share it with those in your circles of influence. There are bumps and bruises on the journey, rough hills, valleys, mountains as well. But don't grow weary of doing good. You will win. It's God's promise to you. Believe His word and trust His hand. He cannot fail and He cannot lie. That will do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. Remember, you can always find more of our news programs on the CBN News Channel. You can find them there at any time as well as online. That's cbnnews.com. Take a moment. Let us know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can email us, newswatch@cbn.com. And of course, you can always reach out and touch us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We love hearing from you. I encourage you to make this a terrific Tuesday and come back right here same time tomorrow. Goodbye and God bless.